It's our off-season project here at Mark Rogers TV, comparing the Power 5 conferences. We've looked at the SEC, now we check out the ACC. So we just look at the results on the field between the Power 5 conferences, because of course we can't look at conference play because they all finish 500 in conference, and we are not, for this exercise, going to look at the games against the FBS and look at the games against the MAC and the Sun Belt and the Mountain West. We're going to keep it a closed and contained experiment and measurement just within the Power 5. So let's check out the ACC. So the surface result is 12 wins and 14 losses against the other four major conferences. Let's check out the wins, because it's not just 12 wins. Those wins have to be put into context. Let's do it this way. Florida State won 3 games against the other four major conferences, including the major independents. They defeated Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, and Florida. Those seeds in those conferences were 7, 6, and 8. If you adjust Oklahoma State's seeding, follow me here. 3 of the conferences have 14 teams, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the SEC. The Big 12 only has 10 teams, and the Pac-12, 12 teams. So we have to adjust their seeding if they're in the Big 12 or in the Pac-12 to compare them against a 14-team league. So for example, if you're a 5 seed in the Big 12 with 10 teams, you're halfway down the rankings in the seedings. If you're a 5 seed in the Big Ten or the ACC or the SEC, that's not comparable. That's comparable to a 7 seed. So we adjusted the seedings, so just trust us on the numbers. So I'm going to go with the adjusted seedings. Oklahoma State a 9, Notre Dame a 6. We compared Notre Dame's schedule and results against the other Power 5 conferences, and we gave them a 6 seed. Florida's an 8. Okay, Clemson won 2 out of conference against South Carolina, and 11. Oklahoma a 5 seed. Clemson's a 3. Boston College with a win against USC. Both teams a 6 seed in their conferences. We had to drop USC from a 5 to a 6 to make up for the 12 versus 14 teams in the league. Louisville a 4 defeated Kentucky a 13. Georgia Tech with a win over Georgia, 2 and a 4 matchup. Georgia Tech a 2 defeated Mississippi State out of the SEC, a 3 seed. Duke of 5 defeated Kansas, a 13. So follow me here. Kansas 9 out of 10 in the Big 12, but adjusted 13 seed in the 14-team league. And of course, the huge win for the ACC in terms of seedings. Virginia Tech at 10 defeated Ohio State at 1. So if you take the ACC teams that won those 12 games and add up their records, they went 120 and 39. Their league record in the ACC was 73 and 28. Their seeding within the conference an average of 3.5. So it makes sense that they defeated teams with lesser records in the other conferences. Good teams usually defeat bad teams. 96 and 59 is not bad. 44 and 39, so fairly marginal in-conference record for the teams that the ACC defeated out of conference, with an average seeding of 6.6. So once we go through every conference, we're going to compare the seedings, the records, and the results. Okay, the ACC losses look like this. UCLA defeated Virginia. That was a 3 versus 12 game. BYU over Virginia, a 5 versus 12 game. Nebraska defeated Miami, 5-11 game. South Carolina, they defeated Miami in the bowl game, 11-11 seeding there. Notre Dame with 2 wins. They also had 2 losses, but 2 wins against the ACC. That was against Syracuse and also North Carolina, the 7 and 13 seeds. Rutgers defeated North Carolina, 7-8 game. Iowa defeated Pitt. That was a 7-8 game. Arizona State with a bowl win over Duke at the Sun Bowl. That was a 5-5 game, Pac-12 versus ACC. Oregon, of course, in the national semifinal defeated Florida State. That was a 1 versus 1 game. You had Georgia winning 2 games against the ACC, defeating both Clemson and Louisville. So that's Georgia, a 4 seed in the SEC, defeating Louisville at 3. Actually, Louisville was the 4, Clemson the 3. And then finally, you got Penn State, a 12 seed out of the Big Ten at 2 and 6. And they defeated Boston College in the bowl game. A 6 seed for Boston College, and Maryland over Syracuse, a 6 over 13. So that's 14 losses for the ACC. In those 14 losses, those 14 teams that lost for the ACC were 94 and 85. So if one particular ACC team lost 2 games, their record was counted twice. They were 55 and 57 in league play, an average seeding of 8.1. They lost to much better teams out of conference. Again, it makes sense. Those teams that the ACC lost to in those 14 games were 122 and 62. They went 54 and 38 in conference, and their average seeding was 5.6. All right, to my favorite part of this, because this really boils it down in regards to quality wins versus quality losses. Okay, for the ACC, they've got a plus 6.4 on their wins, negative 7.9 on the losses. What does this mean? Well, we had to start out by assigning a value to a win and a loss. So wins are given 10 points, so obviously losses are subtracting 10 points. So the average win is given 10 points. So for example, Oregon defeated Florida State. That was 10 points for the Pac-10, the Pac-12, and that was 10 points for the ACC, negative 10 points. That's a comparable seeding matchup with a 1 seed taking on a 1 seed. If a 5 defeats a 5, that's 10 points. Okay, if a 5 defeats a 7, that's a 2 seeding difference. So you start with the 10 points, but then you subtract 2 points. If your conference defeated another conference, your 5 defeated their 7, that's a 2 seeding difference. Take off 2 points, and so you give plus 8 to the winner and negative 8 to the loser. So they don't get subtracted 10 points, it's only 8 points. So the most severe case of this was the Virginia Tech win against Ohio State. So that would be 10 points for the ACC, but Virginia Tech a 10 seed, Ohio State a 1 seed. That's a 9 seed difference. So what we did here was we gave 9 additional points to the ACC. So the ACC receives 19 points for that win. So that boosted that 6.4, but that's only one game out of 12 wins out of conference. 19 points for the ACC. In turn, the Big Ten took a big hit, minus 19 against Ohio State and the Big Ten. That was a big game there. Also, you had on the other side games that didn't count for as much. For example, Duke defeated Kansas. Duke, one of the better teams in the ACC, a 5 seed, defeated Kansas, a 9 seed in the Big 12, but the adjusted seeding is 13. So a 5 versus a 13 is an 8 seed difference. So you get the 10 points for the win, but you get 8 subtracted because a 5 should defeat a 13. So that's only a 2-point win for the ACC. So that brought that down to a 6.4. Again, if like seeds are defeating like seeds, that's going to be 10.0. But the ACC typically defeated lower seeds, as is typically the case, so that brought it down to a 6.4. The SEC, as we saw in our previous video, was defeating higher seeds, and the SEC, despite an 11-11 overall record against the other 4 major conferences, played up, and they also lost to higher seeds. So these numbers were very impressive for the SEC, not so much for the ACC. Again, 6.4 is good. The minus 7.9 is actually a good number, because had they lost to like seeds, that would be negative 10, but it's negative 7.9. Again, when we finish all 5 conferences, we'll add them up and compare from there. That's the ACC's 12-14 record against the other Power 5 conferences. Would love to hear what you have to say right here on Mark Rogers TV.